What's up, metalheads? It's Death Metal Dave. In your face here on metalmessiahradio.com. And I'm with a very old friend of mine. Well, we're both old, and it's been I talk to him every once in a while, but we go way back into the 80s, and I have my friend Kelly Shaefer from Atheist, and also now Till the Dirt. What's up, Kelly?
How are you, my friend? It's good to talk to you. It's good to have something to talk about, something new and exciting. So thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. And I know you're excited about Till the Dirt, and I'm excited for you because I just love your passion. But
thanks, man.
And I know you've been working on this project Till the Dirt for a while, and I'm happy to see it. It's out. August the 25th It came out, so I'm excited, man. It's killer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hope it does really well, man. I think it will.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. I think, it's an exciting time, man. It's been, the last record I personally put out was 2010 with Jupiter for Atheist. So it's 13 years of not putting out a record. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like 13 months, but it's always exciting, especially if it's something new and different. And man, I couldn't be more excited about this. And yeah, it's, I've been talking to you over the last couple of years, just on a personal level about, trying to get this out, and it's hard when people are used to hearing you in a particular light. It's very hard for people to accept you in a different band, a different sound.
Yes.
Because one thing we can get right out of the way is this isn't Atheist. The sound is very different. It's heavier in many ways, much faster, much more sort of modern. But it also pays homage to the '90s, and so it has this strange hybrid quality to it that sounds really fresh and different. And so far, everybody's just really been overwhelmed, and it's got Scott Burns producing it. It's the first thing he's produced in probably 25 years. So it's got a lot of good seasoning. It's gonna be quite the stew.
Yeah, I was gonna say it does have that early '90s kind of feel a little bit. Some of the vocals.
Oh yeah. I love old Seattle music. I love old stoner rock.
I hear it in there.
Yeah. It's all in there, man, and it's the first platform I've found a way to. You remember I had a band called Neurotica in the early 2000s,
yes.
Late 90s, early 2000s, and so most Atheist people aren't familiar with that band at all. But we had a good run. It was sort of above ground. It wasn't underground. It was a different kind of band, and toured on Ozfest in '02, and had a good run. But it was in that band I used my singing voice primarily over the screaming, so it's completely different vibe altogether. That wasn't always well received from underground people. There's a lot of gatekeeping and not allowed to do that. So
closed-minded.
Yeah, but I think time heals all that. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of love for the '90s. You can look at a lot of new metal bands going on that are sort of having success again. You know what I mean? That things always go around. That's not why I did it. It's just a natural progression for me to be able to use what I felt musically with Neurotica and what I felt with Atheist, but then take it to a different place. So it's not technical at all. So I really just explored a lot of different avenues I never got to in the other bands that I had, all in one. So it's so you've got harmony vocals over the top of blast beats, and you're mixing sort of southern sludge with black metal, and it's just this weird, and it's not intentional in any way. It's just the way it came out, and that's how people are receiving it. But it's unusual for a guy sort of my age, I guess, to I'm not trying to reinvent myself, but to inadvertently reinvent yourself in a new kind of music is kind of fun. It's exciting.
I think my favorite song right now is As It Seems. And you got some clean vocals in there. Gotcha.
Yeah, Starring Role, for
Starring
instance,
Role, yes.
Has a breakdown in the middle. Outside the Spiral has a breakdown in the middle with clean vocals, and there's actually a lot of the chorus of outside the Spiral is a clean vocal, but it's not your typical clean vocal. So it's important for anybody that hasn't heard the record to know that I've been smoking 35 years. So my clean vocal is a Joe Cocker clean vocal. It's fucking it's all gnarled up with Jaeger bombs and fucking cigarettes for forever. So it's a different kind of clean. It's got a beard.
Well, that As It Seems, that's some solid dude, your voice is killer. So,
thank you, man. That song in particular is really one that I think it's the contrast, because it starts off really with this beautiful melody and this sort of sorrow, and then it just turns into fucking hell, and it's super fast, and so that contrast between the two is one of my favorite things about this whole record. Is it does that through the whole record. It cruises in and out of clean and dirty and fast and sludgy, and but at the core of it all, I feel like the songs are really strong. That was one of the reasons why I think Scott Burns agreed to come out and produce it, because he's a big fan of good songs, and songs that people can remember and things that are listenable. So couldn't be more excited for everybody to hear it and make their own opinions. But definitely something different. So everybody just be prepared to listen a couple of times. You can't just skip through it, Dave.
I know, right? I heard Starring Roll all the way through, Outside the Spiral all the way through, and As It Seems all the way through.
Sweet.
So
there's some more gems on there I can't wait for you to listen to, because there's a ton of shit in there, lots of riffs and lots of twists and turns. So look forward to your final review.
I'm so horrible about downloading any music to my phone. I don't even know if I know how to do that. I need to learn. So
yeah,
did you write all these yourself? Did you write all the music and the lyrics?
I did. I play guitar on this album too. I wrote even the drums. Except for there's a track on here called "Insist and Demand" that John Longstreth from Origin played drums on, and he did a really phenomenal job, and did his own thing. I just sent him the music, and I sent him an idea, like a rough demo idea of drums that I had in mind, but he did his Longstreth thing and really made it unique, different. But short of that, I wrote all the drums, and then I had a drummer come in and play the drums that I wrote. So there's a live drummer on the album, and his name is Anthony Medaglia, and so. Yeah, I was just in this period of lockdown and COVID, and just had a little home studio set up and the ability to really make some great recordings, and I just went crazy with it for this 2-month period where I wrote like 25 songs, and
wow,
all it ended up being Till the Dirt songs. But it was just fun to not have to. I mean, you've been around bands your whole life. You see how hard it is for bands to get along, to write. When you have 5 guys that all want to write songs, and everybody's trying to write, and everybody's trying to get their riff in there, and there's all it creates a different atmosphere. The funnest thing for me in this, and I love working with people. Believe me, I don't want to give that impression, but it was just nice for the first time to not have to ask anybody's opinion or get anybody's okay or make sure everybody was happy. You know what I mean? Because when you're writing it that way, especially if you're a dominant writer, then you want to feel like you're not shutting anybody else out if you don't like their idea. It's a tough scenario sometimes. So this was great. I was just pouring up the Jaeger bombs and just sitting around and shredding it out, and this is what came about of it. And I mentioned the Jaeger bombs in several interviews over the course of doing press for the record, but it was really a difference maker in my attitude from writing, because I never drank any alcohol ever writing songs.
Oh.
So it made him angrier, and it made it. Yeah, I mean, you all know, people know, when you get out and you get a couple drinks and you become more, social and more outgoing and more courageous. And that's exactly what happened with me musically. I just was stuck at home with some Jaeger and a lot of time and the ability to record. Some really phenomenal technology around today. I was able to use the STL Tone Hub stuff from my friend Mark Lewis. Had turned me on to a great producer,
Mark. Yeah,
and Mark.
Yep.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, and so he's the one that I first found out about these packs and where they've gone in, and his pack in particular has about 50 sounds that are just perfectly curated in the studio, and so I can flip through Mesa Boogies to Marshalls to all these different preset beautiful sounds that are just at your fingertips, and it's unfucking believable.
Wow.
How great it sounds. And I would have to have $100,000 or more to even fuck around with the amps.
Right.
Plus, I would never have the microphones he has, and the placement, and the room that they're in. I mean, all the knowledge of a high quality engineer like that right at my fingertips. And so I was just able to, I would lay down 2 tracks guitar with one rig and 2 tracks with another rig, and it just sounded amazing. I would go to my car and ride around and listen to it and get high and be like, holy fuck, this is the quality of the recording was so much better than what we used to do in the 90s. And the drums as well. And Scott Burns, when he first heard it, was just like, what drums are those? That drum sound is unbelievable. And I said, I know, it's these loops, these amazing loops, and I just cut them all up. It's hard to explain to a person that doesn't record, but you can cut them all up digitally and move them around and really kind of say what you want to say, because I can't play drums, but I write drums. Gotcha. I always wrote a lot of drums with Atheist. I would always mouth out the drums that I was hoping that Steve would play, Steve Flynn. And so I'd be like, like,
gotcha.
It becomes a language amongst the musicians. Every band has them. So, but to be able to sit and do it myself, and just try shit out too, I could try out one drum beat, and another thing is I could write to a drum beat. So, I would have to ask a drummer to play exactly the same for an hour. Right. If I wanted to get the same effect, you know what I mean? Like, hey, can you play this drum beat for an hour so I can work out a riff around there? I didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? It was just like there, and that machine will play as long as I want it to play. So all those things factored into the prolific sort of period I had for, like I said, about 6 to 8 weeks. And I just piled on and wrote all these fucking songs. And I didn't know what to do with them, Yeah. And that's where Scott Burns really came in and helped me pull it all together. And then Monty Connor, who was, famous for signing a lot of the bands at Roadrunner back in the day.
Yep.
And he's at Nuclear Blast now. And so he's the guy that signed the band. And here we are. Fucking record's out.
Wow. Okay, so you wrote it all and did a rough thing by yourself. The demo. And who recorded on it? Who's all the players?
Okay, so the guys that used to play with me in Atheist in 2019,
gotcha.
Daniel Martinez and Chris Martin are the 2 guys that played. And then while I was doing it, we were in a band. We were in Atheist. They're no longer in Atheist, but when they were, they were just. That's how Jeff Loomis became a part of it. He's just a friend, and he texted me one night while I was working on a song, and I was like, hey, man, can you do solo on a song? He was like, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
And that's another incredible thing that a lot of probably music listeners and not musicians don't realize, that is you can make a record without ever laying eyes on each other.
That's true.
So nobody that played on this record ever saw each other. That's so nuts, from the way that we used to make records. And so that's I don't know if it's just me, but it sounds like there's a lot of chemistry on the record, but I guess it's just all coming from one vision, without it being sort of steered around by other members. So fortunately, everybody did such a phenomenal job of recreating what I did on my demos, and it was just nice to get other human qualities to it. We left my guitar parts on the album, and then in addition, we have Daniel and Chris's guitar parts, and then Yoav, our current Atheist bass player, who's phenomenal, did most of the bass on the album, except for the title track, which is Steve DiGiorgio.
Yeah,
you and I both love Steve D.
Yeah, Stevie D.
Stevie D, man. So he's playing bass on that track, and fretless bass, of course, and did an amazing job. And then. Like I said, Longstreth on the other track. So it was just nice having some guests. And in the beginning, it was, definitely not the intention to be a new band or any of that shit. I was just writing music that I felt was different. And I was just sending it around to like Hoagland and Terrence Hobbs and all these different guys. I was like, what? Does this mean anything? Is this shit any good? Because I knew they would tell me the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got like a lot of really good feedback. So it was inspiring to get the feedback. And I just kind of fed on that. And I didn't have anything else to do. I was stuck at home.
Right.
With my little 3-year-old,
Yeah. Family man.
Cool. Yes, sir. But I balanced. I literally made this record with him. And, there were times where he was sitting on the couch, as I've told the story, watching Paw Patrol. And I did all these vocals in a non-traditional way as well. Like they're all the first takes that I did. Pretty much each song in the album was written in about a night or so. Sometimes maybe 2, but never more than 2 days. And so I would write the vocals the first night, and by the time I would get to the vocals, it would be about 1:30 in the morning, 2:00 in the morning. And because there was no school or anything going on, sometimes he'd be awake, so I would be doing vocals with headphones on, with a handheld mic, though, not like a traditional fancy studio setup, you know.
Right.
And so, you know, you might, if you were to isolate these vocal tracks, you might hear a little bit of Paw Patrol in the back. Which I think fucking it rules, you know. So yeah, just very unconventional. You know, it's a record full of flaws, in my opinion, which is hard to come by these days. It's not a perfect, pristine recording. You know what I mean? I tracked a lot of the stuff myself, but when you listen to it, you wouldn't. You know, I don't feel like anybody's gonna. They're just gonna hear the rawness of it. You know, it's. We live in a day and age where everything is perfect. All the records are just really perfect. All the drum hits are perfect. Everything is just, you know, and you know, sometimes you go see that band live and it's like, oh, this does not sound the same at all, you know, and so I really wanted to just capture as much of a live vibe as I could, you know, so I left a lot of mistakes on the album, you know. I just feel like they're important, you know. If the guitar is slightly out of tune a little bit, then I'm cool with that, you know what I mean, if it fits the mood of the song, you know, because that's how it is live, you know. You know, when you see a band live, there's mistakes, and that's how you realize, okay, I'd rather see those mistakes than hear you know, tons of backing tracks and all that shit.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So that's just me.
So do you have a favorite tune on this record?
It kind of varies, I guess. You know, I have a favorite tune for a scenario. Music to me is always like a soundtrack to life, you know?
Yeah.
So if I want to drive, if I want to get in the car and fucking, if I've just fucking blazed a fucking joint and I want to go for a drive and drive fast, I would go Starring Roll, or
Gotcha.
Or As It Seems. As It Seems is one that's very melancholy in the beginning and then just rips, you know, and so that's a song that I would love to be on the highway for. If I'm just laid back, sitting in a dark place, I would love to listen to Who Awaits, which is a really, really cool and interesting song. It's kind of a real indicator of how the whole record, the hybrid nature of it, sounds like. In fact, you know, it's got Alice in Chains vibes inadvertently because there's harmony vocals. Right. But if you can imagine blast beat Alice in Chains, you know, I mean, it's kind of like that. So, it just depends on the mood I'm in. I think that, you know, all music to me is about, you know, it's hard to, people always ask for a top 10. What's your top 10 favorite records? I'm like, it just depends on what I'm doing. Yeah. You know, if I'm sitting out having a barbecue, there's certain music I want to be the soundtrack for that part of, you know, my day. And, I'm just chilling at home, laid back, and I'm all about Animals from Pink Floyd and fucking, you know, I mean, it's whatever I feel like feeling like, you know, and what's the great thing about music is good music will always take you where you want to go, you know?
Yep. And I have an eclectic mix of music I listen to, from Southern rock to even old school rap to
absolutely, man. I love some old school shit.
You know, it depends on your mood, you know. And
I love pulling up to fucking a stoplight with Ice Cube Wicked playing like really loud, you know, like I love that shit. There's just some, you know, music is beautiful. It's amazing, and it's this invisible magic. You know, that's how I've always seen it. You can't see it, but you can stand side stage and watch, you know, at a festival with 50 or 60,000 people, and you know, just the idea of somebody, you know, these strings are on a guitar, these drums are sitting there, and you can make sounds that you can't see, but will level a crowd. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can suddenly go into a part that just makes the entire place bounce. You know, Rage Against the Machine is always a great example of that. Like, you know, just, you know, when they go, you know, come with it now. It's like, it's a magic power. Like, what else can make 60 to 80,000 people move in unison like that? Yeah. You know, I mean, all at once, just pow, with a sound that, you know, it's a sound wave hitting everybody's ears, and all of a sudden everybody just boom reacts. So it's an incredible superpower that I fucking feel very fortunate to possess. Sometimes, not like that. I wish I could possess it like that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I always tell people, open your mind and open your ears. You might hear something that you like. And I always tell everybody, if it sounds good to my ears, I'm in.
I love Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is fucking amazing to me, man. I mean, I think that I can't get enough of her voice, man. I think she's incredible.
Much of her, so I couldn't comment.
Fucking great. You just don't realize that she's infused into pop culture, like in a way that you can't avoid. You just didn't realize it was her. But she has this really quiet, whispery, beautiful voice that's unlike anybody. And yeah, I encourage you to go check out her album, the first album especially. But I love all kinds of different. I mean, I love some old Skinner.
Fuck
that shit puts me right. You feel like fighting. You want to listen to some fight music, and you know what I mean. It's just it's such an amazing thing. I mean, when people tell me, I've met people over the years that say, I don't really listen to music. I just think, what? I don't understand that statement at all. Like,
either.
Not listen to music. You know what else bums me out is that music is one of these art forms that is so disrespected and stepped on like horrible cocaine. You know what I mean? It's like nobody has it. Like, what I mean by that, let me clarify, is that people have no problem stealing music. People have no problem borrowing or downloading and the amount of money paid to musicians from Spotify is disgusting. Even from record companies, the amount of money the artists make from record companies is not as much as record companies are making. So in that level, when you have cinema and even sitcom actors, those people are paid, residual fees over the course of 20 years, and after they make a sitcom, if it's a success, then they do well. But musicians always have to chase pennies.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? If you really want your money, you've got to chase it down. A lot of the early days of Tampa Bay death metal, a lot of those bands signed deals that they had to give away their publishing in order to get the deal. Had to sign deals with the devil, so to speak, or just not get to make a record. And that happens still today a lot, sometimes even more now, because
it's probably worse.
Bands are signing 360 deals, which means now the label's getting a piece of your merch, a piece of all your digital money, and your hardcore sales of albums, CDs, and touring. So you're cutting them in on every single aspect of your ability to earn, and that's just and then you couple that with venues taking 20% of merch, 15 or 20% for doing nothing. Bands don't get 15 or 20% of the bar, so venues shouldn't get 15 or 20% of the merch. So that's why T-shirts are so fucking expensive at shows. For anybody wondering why it's $45 for a T-shirt at a concert, you can thank your local venue. Well, and everybody with their hands in the fucking pot.
I just recently went to Exhorter and they didn't have any shirts, and what you did is you pre-ordered your shirt, and I think it was to avoid the venue fee because it was.
Isn't that a shame that we got to do that?
I know
it is. They're not going to. I love Kyle and I love Exhorter, and that breaks my heart that they have to fucking do that.
They sold small items, but they didn't sell the T-shirts.
Well, I mean, you just end up selling so many more when they're hanging there. You know what I mean? People get impulsive. They have a couple drinks and think, I need a shirt. This band fucking rocks, and they spend the fucking money. That's not going to happen in a pre-order scenario. So the band suffers. Again, the band suffers because of that. And so all of those aspects of it just really make it a tough business to be in, man. You really got to love metal, especially. You got to fucking love it to do it. And so, when you see your band, your favorite band going on tour, and they're, the nearest show to you is 60 miles away, don't fucking complain about it. Get in your fucking car and throw your friends in there and go drive 60 miles to see them, because they're going to great lengths to play as close to you as they possibly can, but it's really hard to route tours. It's expensive to be on the road. So I just see a lot of people on social media complaining, oh my God, I can't, I have to drive 45 minutes. Like, oh, Jesus. Sorry, they're not in your backyard. Like, I mean, it's really hard. I don't think fans realize how hard it is sometimes to put together a tour where everybody's happy. And you've hit the cities that everybody wanted you to hit.
Yeah, and then buy merch too when you go there.
Yeah, well, and then we just did a tour with Cynic just earlier this year, and had so much fun. But me and Paul just talked about how it's just. it's just so hard for kids. There's so many shows coming through, and tickets are. An average kid that's in the metal shows, if he's to attend all the shows in a month, he'll probably spend $1,200.
Yes.
Just between merch and drinks and gas and tickets.
Yeah.
So it's expensive to be a fan. But it's everybody else that's making the goddamn money.
Yeah.
It's not the musicians.
Yeah.
So don't think for a second that ticket being $25 is because the band is charging a bunch of money. It's 9 times out of 10 not the case.
Right. And I think it exploded after COVID. The floodgates opened. Everybody went on tour too. So.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of. I think in 2024 you'll see a much more spaced out touring cycle from bands, and but yeah, we missed it so much. It was so nice to be back out there, and that COVID shit was crazy.
Yeah.
But,
so
I made the best use of it I could, and wrote a bunch of music.
Yeah, you did. Hell yeah. Well, can I jump back in history and so tell us about the band Oblivion, 1984.
Yeah, that was just the very first name of the band that me and Steve Flynn, when we met each other when we were like 13, maybe. Yeah, 13. We went to the same school, but we had different friends. And so then we met up a couple of years later, like in our late 15s, maybe early 16s. So that would be 80, it was 12, so 84. So we decided, we realized that we liked the same music. And at that time, that was when it was fun. That's when underground music was just starting. And so he was like, yeah, I love Merciful Fate. And I was like, well, you know who Merciful Fate is? Like, Metallica, the Slayer, sort of like Black Magic. You can play Black Magic. Like, like those things were just hard. And it was a world full of, in Tampa, especially Sabotage, Crimson Glory, stuff like that was the king, and so playing underground metal, like really stuff that ended up, really putting Tampa on the map in a big way was, not a lot of people were playing that fast or were into that kind of, those kinds of vocals and such. So that was our first thing. We decided to put a band together before we found Roger and Rand, and we were Oblivion for about, 2 or 3 weeks, and then we became R.A.V.A.G.E. right away.
Tell us exactly what R.A.V.A.G.E. stands for.
Well, it didn't stand for anything. In the beginning, R.A.V.A.G.E. just meant Ravage, but there was this band that put a record out back then that sounded like Dokken. And in the early days of our demos getting reviewed, people were confusing us with the Dokken band, which was the worst thing that any underground band could ever experience. Yeah. Like Dokken was the antichrist of our movement. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's funny because I later in life became friends with George Lynch and almost played in a band with him, as a matter of fact.
Crazy.
But it's just funny that I think about myself as a kid. Dokken to me was just such a bad word.
Yes.
And so we were like, fuck, man, we can't do this. So we made it an acronym, and it was Raging Atheist, Bowing a Gory End. That was our stupid teenage, name to try to hang on to R.A.V.A.G.E. And eventually I was just like, how about just Atheist? And then there it was, man. I remember the day, and everybody's like, fucking A, let's do it. But now I think about how lucky we were to be able to have that name, even as much of a detriment as it's probably been to an average music listener, because immediately people are just so silly, man. They go, oh, so you believe in the devil? Yeah. Like, go grab a dictionary and look up atheist, dum dum.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean Satanist. It's I don't believe in either side of it. I think both nonsense. So I spent my entire career explaining that to people at every turn. And even, like if you're on a plane and you meet a nice family and they've got a couple of kids and they say, oh, do you play music? And you say, yeah, I play music. Oh, what's the name of your band? There's just no way to get around that.
Yeah.
the look on their face when you say atheist, it's like, oh, okay, good day. And it's like, fuck, man, immediately they discount it. And that's been my whole fucking life, dude. That shit's been happening for 35 years.
They judge you on your band's name.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I work, when I'm not touring, I drive around on the beach. I do like a taxi service on a golf cart, and it's just so fun cruising people around the beach and taking them around to their condos. And I meet a lot of really interesting people, and a lot of them are older. And then they say, "Oh, you look like a musician." And it's like, oh man, I can't get into this conversation with them because they're not going to want to ride in the car with me. So they think the devil's driving them around.
That's funny.
So it's nice to have a new band. Kill the Dirt at least is. I can say that in a church if I needed to.
Right. That's pretty funny.
Not that I attend any churches at all.
The metal church. Yeah, you played. Did you ever play the Sunset Club?
Yes. With Death.
Okay, that's where I met you. I couldn't think of where. I remember. I can't. It's hard for me to remember the Sunset.
That was the show we played with Death, and I think we played there on a couple of other occasions as well. Maybe even the Rocket Club. We played on a couple. You remember that place?
Yeah. I saw a few shows there, but not.
Hold on. Wait, what was the other place called? Where it wasn't.
Ruby's.
It wasn't the Rocket Club. No. Shit. The first time Amon played, obviously before they were called Deicide, and Keith Collins Keith Collins used to book the room. A Volley Club?
Volley Club, yeah.
Volley Club, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we played there with Morbid Angel. I think once we played there with early Deicide when they were called Amon, and
they had the volley ball courts outside.
Yeah, I don't. I remember barely being able to be in there. I don't even think I was old enough to be in the club per se.
Yeah.
But those were the early. Ruby's was like the first place I think I saw Nasty Savage. If I'm not mistaken.
Right, Ruby's would be Nasty Savage. I think that
was pre-Sunset Club, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we go way the fuck back. God, Nasty Savage was so great back in the day. Those shows were just, man, those will never leave my brain. In my final hour of life, as I'm going through all of the fun things that I've done in my life, nothing was like going to see Nasty Savage and piling on top of each other. Nobody was moshing around or elbowing each other. It was just piles and piles of long-haired metal kids just headbanging and just watching Savage crush, man. They were just so great back then, just the show and the feeling, and that all the musicians were in the room. Everybody, all the bands were there. Executioner, which went on to become Obituary. Just looking back on it now and just walking around. And I remember seeing Mike Browning when he was still in Morbid Angel walking through the club, all evil and shit. He was like, his eyes were always rolled back in his head, and it was just, we were all young, trying to make we were trying to make our mark, And I just remember Trevor from Obituary just looking literally like someone just dug him up out of a grave. He looked so perfectly death metal to us back in the day. Like seeing Trevor was like, God damn, he literally looks like death metal.
Looks like The Walking Dead.
Love that guy.
He looks just like his dad, by the way.
Really?
His dad his face is exactly his dad's. Of course, his dad has short hair. But,
can't imagine.
I was in Alabama when I heard of Nasty Savage in the the mid 80s there, and I was hooked. My buddy.
When did you come to Tampa?
87, and
okay.
Terry Butler was the first person I met in Florida, in Tampa. Wow. Literally in the scene, I happened to just run into Terry. Well, what happened was I went to, oh my God, Vinyl Fever. There was a flyer there, and it said Death Fest, and it was the Sunset Club. And my buddy from Skeletal Earth in Alabama, he had told me about Death. I didn't know anything about this shit. And I went to the Sunset Club, and I saw this dude wearing a Death shirt. And I walked up, and I was like, hey, is there anybody from Death here? And he goes, yeah, I'm from Death. And it was Terry. And he goes, oh, I was told to find you. And he's the first person I met in the scene, and I'm still really good friends with him to this day. And then,
yeah, wow, what a career he's had, huh?
That's a trip, man. Me and him.
I mean,
he used to drive me around and stuff back then. It was great.
Yeah, we obviously got off on the wrong foot because in the early days of Death, there was this squabble between Atheist and Death that was pretty unavoidable. So we became friends later as we both grew up.
Right.
Became men, Yeah. But it was very, it was a lot of competition back then. It was, it was, everybody was, trying to get a record deal because, in my opinion, and Nasty Savage is the one that showed us, like, hey, you can do this. You can play underground music and still make a record. And they signed with Metal Blade, and the record came out. I mean, I think I was more proud for them and I say this about Metallica too. When when Metallica's first record came out, I was just like, man, the first time I saw them in a magazine, I was happier for them than I think I've ever been happy to see myself in a magazine. I was just like, I felt like, yes, finally the world is fucking waking up to this amazing new music, that's fast and heavier than anything ever before. And God, it was so fun, man. I just loved discovering new bands and tape trading and all that. It was just
trading, yes.
Before the internet, man, it was, unexplainable times, man. It was just a different bond and a different union of, it's just like this secret pen pal club across the world. And we just felt like we had this super overt secret fucking soundtrack to our lives, and discovering new bands all the time. And so looking back on it now, all the years later, it's just feel so lucky to have been a part of it, and to still be making relevant music is a huge blessing, man.
Yeah, and
watch my contemporaries like Obituary just killing it. Everywhere they play now, it's just, man, it makes me happy. To see all that hard work come to fruition like that.
Back then it kind of seemed like you're in a little club or a group or something. You know what I mean? And now it's a huge group of or
it sure is, yeah.
Club or whatever.
Yeah, and there's some undesirable elements. Obviously when things become popular, then some of the branches on the tree aren't as cool as the others. But I mean, the sacrifice of that is worth it, because now it's on a global level. It's almost being taken seriously enough. Like, I still think there needs to be. Well, this is something that you're working on. It's a great segue. Is the Tampa Bay Hall of Fame, the Music Hall of Fame.
Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. Yeah.
Museum of Metal, yes. So, but it's the Hall of Fame sort of idea, where this showcasing of the history of metal, and you're, if not the first, one of the first people to do it. And there's a lot of, you and I off the record know that there's a lot of exciting things coming next year based around that. But people should know all the hard work that you've done to put this together. And I think it's great because it's going to showcase memorabilia, creates an opportunity for people to tell stories. And I just think the more of that more documentaries that are made about that era, about this kind of music, the better, because it's 40 years deep now. So there's 4 decades of history. Let's filmmakers, these days, I'm surprised there aren't more films being made, especially how easy you can make a film yourself these days. And somebody really digging into the nuts and bolts of how all this came to be. It really is an interesting story. I mean, we lived it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you and I know all the ins and outs and the stories and the ups and downs and the different members of all the bands and just, the backstory of it is really interesting. And I think that anybody just getting into this kind of music would be blown away to be able to watch that kind of documentary. So it's a call to arms for all young filmmakers. If you want to make something that the entire world wants to see in metal, like, do that shit.
Yeah,
start with
come to Tampa.
Yeah, do it. Make the movie.
Start with Nasty Savage and Savatage or Avatar.
Yeah, that was the grease of it all.
Hell yeah!
The very beginning, the alpha.
So Kelly, when you changed your name to Atheist, were you already signed and you were beginning to record, or?
It was kind of, it was. We did a compilation record called "Raging Death" compilation.
Death, yes.
And there was only 1,000 copies, and it had Executioner, which became Obituary. It had Sadist, and us, and when we were still called R.A.V.A.G.E, and basically had 2 songs from each of our demos on it. And it was put out by the guy who now owns blabbermouth.net. His name is Boy Kryn, and he was a really, really important writer in the early days and a great finder of music. He's responsible for Sepultura, finding them to tape trading and lots of bands. So he was just always on the street, was near to the street, and feeding Roadrunner a lot of bands. He was one of the, him and Monty Connor were very good friends. Anyway, long story short, he, what were we talking? Oh, so he said, listen, guys, if you really want your demo, because it was hard to distribute your demo. There was no way to do that back then, unless you literally stuffed envelopes and sent them all across and hoped that they would arrive without getting stepped on, crushed, or x-rayed. So, if you sent a demo to Germany, it might never get there, and you wouldn't really know it. You wouldn't be able to call the person to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you can today. So he was like, this will assure that. I'm sorry, there was 2,000 copies of Rage and Death that were made, and so it's a collector's item now for sure. But so us and Obituary and Sadist went on to get record deals out of that. I can't remember the names of the other two bands, but that was a great opportunity for us, and that was the first. And then he went on to get a job at a label called Three Cherries Records in New York, and they were basically an R&B label. But because he had made friends with the owner, and he was telling him about this new kind of music, and can I start a subsidiary label since he had distribution? And so he started Mean Machine Records and signed Atheist, and we did Piece of Time, and that's when that was kind of all in one movement. Like we went from R.A.V.A.G.E to Atheist. He signed, he got us a deal, and then we did Piece of Time. And then it took 2 years for that fucking record to come out.
Wow.
And so when people look at it in terms of the technical metal timeline, they're forgetting that record was done, and, it was done really for all intents and purposes in 86, 87. So it was very forward from anything that was going on around us. You know what I mean? So we were always just really into... Nasty Savage also is never, not to keep harping on them, but I mean, they, musically, obviously Ronnie was a showman, and he had his particular kind of vocal style. It was far different than what we were all doing, but musically they did some really cool shit. They had a great bass player named Dezo Bartha.
Yeah.
And he was just, Roger just loved him, Roger Patterson. And he, loved it. And then, great harmonies between Ben and Dave. And the types of riffs. I mean, I tell David Austin all the time, I can show you the things that we stole from you, and he was just like, oh man, I don't need, I don't think so, man. Yes, absolutely, buddy. I can promise you we stole from. I love that guy. He's the best.
That is a great impression of him. I just talked to him last Friday or something, and we talk about once a week or so.
Love him,
David. Speaking of early Atheists, didn't Tony and Dave at No Clubs help you guys at all?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they were our first managers.
Gotcha.
And they went on tour with us when we did the Cannibal Corpse tour. Tony did half the tour, and we were on an RV. And Dave Hunley did the second half of the tour. We tormented him. Poor guy. He was funny because he would he'd be like, it's time to go to sleep, and it would be like 11:15 at night. Like, bro, you can't just sleep right here in the middle of the RV. We got shit to do, and we got drinks to drink, and shit to smoke, and so it was really funny. He had like this eye mask, and he would literally try to go to sleep in the middle of all of our chaos. But it was funny. But yeah, they were, Daddy Cool Records, man, was.
Yeah.
I was 15 years old, sitting in he had before he was in St. Pete, he was in Bradenton, Florida.
Right.
And that's where we rehearsed, and so I would just go there, and he would, obviously he had all of the new music in there. He knew about it weeks before it was going to come out, and so he turned me on to so much music, and first before anybody else heard it too, and I love that. And I would just sit in his store all I didn't know what to do. I would just go there and talk to him, and then as our band got better, and he obviously did so many amazing shows in Florida.
Oh my God, yes,
legendary, and gave us opportunities to open for Testament and Death Angel, and then lots of big bands, and was just salt of the earth, man. I love him so much. I just talked to him a couple days ago on text.
Talk to Dave.
He's just such a treasure. No, not Dave. Tony.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I haven't talked to Dave in a while, but
I talked to Tony about a year ago. I think
he's great, man. He's just an unsung hero of the Tampa Bay metal scene and the music scene in general. I think there's people in the know that he's a very important man. But I want him to live forever. He's just an institution. That guy is just. He brought the Chili Peppers to Florida the first time.
Yeah.
He brought all those great punk rock shows like DRI and all. It was just all back in the day. Nobody else. There were no other promoters that were willing to do that. And then gave everybody an opportunity to open for those bands, which was just perfect.
And a lot of those,
not a lot of bands came to Florida.
And a lot of those were Janice Landing. I loved that place back in the day. I mean, I still love it today.
He was with us until maybe right when, just after a piece of time, probably about the time that we lost Roger. I think everything changed, and we ended up not having management for years and years.
Just enlighten everybody. Roger Patterson, killer fucking bass player, and tell us exactly what happened. I mean, I know the story.
We went to tour with Candlemass. We'd gone to Sweden, played some shows, and some of the early shows that Atheist played. Funny story. I'm just finding this out now. Is I spoke to some of the guys from At the Gates and Entombed, and like we went over to play with Candlemass, which if anybody knows Candlemass knows it's a super doomy band, like not anything like Atheist at all. So it was a weird bill to begin with, and we played in Malmö, Sweden, and a couple of other cities in Sweden. It was just a three city tour, and then and so all the now legendary Swedish death metal bands were there in the room, almost like we were all there when Nasty Savage was playing. And so it turns out, like, I've seen interviews where Alex from Entombed is talking about, Atheist came to town, and we just decided we wanted to be more technical, more complicated, and I was on 70K, and I met the guys from At the Gates, and huge fucking band, an amazing band, and they were there at that show, and they were telling me about how, and I remember seeing bands like that, like going to a show and you see the opening band and you go, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And it kind of changes all the local, people get excited about. So anyway, that was kind of a cool angle to that. So anyway, fast forward to a few months later, we go on tour in America with Candlemass. And again, even more weird in the United States to play that tour. So we do the whole tour on a bus, and then we get done with the bus, and we get in a van, and we have to drive all the way back to Florida in this Astro van. And so we only had one driver and one roadie, and the one roadie was not a great driver. And so basically we had one good driver, and he had driven for like 29 hours. He just couldn't do it anymore. We had to get this van back.
Right.
So we were like, all right, man, because we were broke. I mean, we made like $75 a night to play on that tour.
Damn.
And yeah, dude, it was terrible. I don't even know how we pulled it off. I think we got a little help from the label or something, but I mean, $5 a day per diem. You know what I mean? I couldn't even barely buy a pack of cigarettes and a soda. So yeah, it was a lot different. But and so anyway, we had, we were trying to get back. It's a long journey. You really need 3.5 days to do it comfortably, and we were trying to do it in 2. And so yeah, he went off the side of the road and tried to overcorrect, and it flipped the van and threw Roger out of the van, and fucked my foot and my elbow up pretty good. Everybody else was okay, but they killed Roger, and it was just this fucking horrible way to end a tour. And we were best friends. We were roommates, and just an incredible talent. And it was just, we were way too young to absorb it and really kind of like, holy fuck, what just happened? I mean, we just had the time of our life, and then all in one morning it's over, and our friend is gone. So it was a really tough time. But we 8 weeks later, we were in the studio because we had already written Uncrushable Presence at that point. That was 1991.
I got you.
And so the record was already written and demoed for the most part. So with these incredible bass lines that would go on to become classic, bass lines. We didn't know it at the time, obviously, but so Tony Troy was our friend. We were friends with the guys at Cynic because we were very like-minded in the early days of complex, sort of jazz-infused metal.
Yeah.
And so he was a perfect choice to. Him and Roger were friends, and so Tony came in, and 8 weeks later we recorded Unquestionable Presence.
Crazy. I still talk to Tony occasionally. I seen him in Miami. I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe 3. Yeah, I talked to him. I message him every once in a while, and he's doing like he's got his studio. He does DJing. And
he I've been to one of his shows like in Miami. He does he has a bunch of timbales out, and he plays along with DJs.
Oh,
so like in these huge clubs, like me and Steve went down to see him, Steve Flynn, and It was at a VIP thing, and this big, huge, with like hundreds of people in this Miami, exactly what you would think of in a Miami club, and he's up on this perch, like 10, 15 feet in the air, with these timbales, and he's playing along with all this, house music and fucking trap music and all this, and it's really cool. It's a great. He invented that gig kind of in a way. I've never seen anybody do that.
Crazy.
And we had a really good time. And yeah, he also produces a lot of Latin pop.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So he's always just had that, Latin in him, that rhythmic sort of sense. You can hear it on the Elements album, Atheist, a lot of Latin influence on that album because of Tony. So then shortly after, when we were recording Unquestionable Presence, Pestilence was in the studio at the same time. And when they heard like the demos for Unquestionable, they fired their bass player. And obviously it had more money than we had at the time, and they ended up taking Tony away from us at the time. And so that sucked. And so we ended up with Darren McFarland, who was in a band called Blackout.
Yeah.
In Tampa. They were a great band. Well. Jerry Mobley, killer guitar player.
Yeah.
But Darren played in that band, and again, there's a very small amount of people that were capable of playing those bass lines, and so we went out and did the Cannibal Corpse tour after that, and that's when we had Dave Hunley and Tony with us.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, that was the old days, man. That was Butchered at Birth era Cannibal Corpse with Barnes.
Yeah, I need to go see Darren. I mean, he changed his name, but Star is his name now or something.
No, it's like Star Atma or some shit on Facebook.
I think the Q is silent. I think.
Oh, is it?
I believe it's Star Atmar. Yeah, something like that. I've been meaning to go check him out. I think it's more of a hippie-ish thing.
Great player, man.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's always been a very unique character and just tremendously talented. And I'd love to see him. He could play with anybody in the world that he wants to play with. He's always been that good. But I haven't talked to him, and I see him from time to time pop up on Facebook and try to say hi. And he came to see me play a few years ago in Seattle, and it was nice to see him. So, he was out there for a while.
I think he's like a big dog at like Guitar Center or something. He used to be.
Is he?
Yeah, he used to be like a big, like an executive or something, and he overseen several stores, and he might have been out there for work. I don't know, but yeah.
Hey, while you mention it, let me do a shout out to Dean Guitars. Thank you for endorsing me and allowing me to write music on Dean Guitars, man. That Chris has been amazing.
Chris Canella,
yeah, because I'm left-handed, and so I really want to do. There's a lot of lefties out there that really have a hard time finding left-handed guitars. So I'm hoping to be able to champion or ambassador the cause for lefties at Dean and come up with a signature lefty model. And but shout out to Chris Canella for helping everybody out. Really, Dean Guitars has been incredible to the metal community, and they deserve a shout out. So there it is.
Yeah, they always come across. Whenever I do a benefit show, they always come up with a guitar for
and D drums. D drums too.
Yes.
We're kind enough to sponsor our new drummer Dylan Marks for Atheist on the last tour. Yeah, so he's a D drums, and they provided a beautiful kit for us to use on they did the drum heads for us and everything. So yeah, just salt of the earth, tip of the hat to fucking Dean and D drums for because man, there's not a lot of people out there doing things for metal bands. Everybody's taking shit from metal bands, but not many are giving. So Dean Guitars, and they do all you can to support those companies because they definitely 100% support metal.
Yeah, and they're right here in Tampa too, so they're part of the Tampa metal scene.
I love it. Yeah.
So after Elements, you kind of took a little break there, and in the eyes of the underground, yes. Right.
I started Neurotica at that point.
Yes.
So that was the very early part of Neurotica, and then that went on for the rest of that decade. And then we ended up signing the deal in '98 with that band, and then another big deal in 2002 with the WWE, Vince McMahon. And that was a whole other chapter of craziness. But that was at the time where it was real difficult to be in a death metal band. I mean, it was, the waning years of the 90s were tough. That's why, I got to hand it to Obituary. They never stopped, really. I mean, there was a short period of time that they stopped. They've just always been plugged. Same with Cannibal Corpse. Like, just plugging away through all the shit. When everything got dark and everybody sort of abandoned extreme metal, they stuck in there, and so they're owed a lot of credit for that, for keeping it alive. And now it's just back bigger than ever. I mean, it's just all extreme metal is just this gargantuan mammoth of a genre of music. Just so many different kinds of bands too, and I fucking love it. Great.
So, and then I mean, I don't know what happened exactly to Neurotica, but then what? How did you decide to do another, or bring Atheist back to life, if you will?
Well, when Neurotica ended in 2002, at the end of the Ozfest tour, the WWE had started this label, SmackDown Records, and they to start a label, you can have all the money in the world, but running a record label is, if you watch how the WWE did the XFL the first time, they fucked it all up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They used wrestling announcers for their, and they tried to inject too much wrestling into the NFL rather than just create a new league. So they fucked that up, lost millions of dollars. Well, they did the same thing with the label. They tried to initially put us out on tour with Fozzy, and I was like, we don't. You're missing the point. If you really want to do this, and I told Vince McMahon this to his face in Connecticut in a meeting, I was like, you have 10 hours of television a week. You don't need MTV. This is when MTV still was around, and you don't need any of that shit. You can put the music on. They had just put Bodies from Drowning Pool in a big pay-per-view match. And Drowning Pool sold 250,000 copies as a result of that song being played on the air. Huh, and I told Vince, I was like, you have that power. You can introduce bands that are on your label, play their music during your events, and you don't need anybody, and everybody else will just come running because you made a name for a band, and they want a piece of it too. And so I convinced him of that, and because initially we signed this big deal, they announced it on AOL when AOL was like a big deal, and it was a huge, when wrestling was at its peak and The Rock was there, it was like, it was a big damn deal. Yeah. And we were excited to be the only band and the first band signed there. So, all of a sudden, matter of fact, we went up to Dean Guitars back when Elliot owned it.
Yeah.
And when Elliot was alive, from Dean, and he actually endorsed Neurotica back then, and that was in 2002. And so we were on our way back from there, and we get a call from the people at SmackDown Records, and they were like, "So we're not going to put the record out yet. We're just going to. We'd like you guys to come up and work with Jim Johnson, the guy that makes the theme music for the wrestlers." And we were like, "What?" And so I wrote this really hardcore, nasty letter to Vince McMahon, and it basically just said, you fucking paid a bunch of money for this band, for a rock and roll band, and that's what the fuck you got. Now you want me to go make music with your jingle maker. That's exactly what I called him. And I said, we're not a jingle band. We're not a wrestling band. We're, you're missing the point on all this. And I said, you wouldn't ask any of the wrestlers to be trained by a judo guy or a karate guy. You don't send them to the karate camp to learn how to be a wrestler. Don't ask me. I'm in a fucking band. Don't ask me to go in and write jingles in order to be able to put the record out. And the whole reason the guy wanted to do it was because he had a great little scam going on there. He was collecting all the publishing from artists like Cypress Hill and fucking Limp Bizkit, and all he had to do was get them to come in and make a theme song for a wrestler. Oh, I see. And if he worked on, and he produced it and worked on it and took 50% of the publishing. Vince didn't even have any idea that shit was going on. Huh. And, mind you, Vince created a $3 million studio for this guy to do all that out of. And they'd been friends for 17 years. And so Vince felt that he had to, the company was so big at the time that the people they first hired were from Columbia and from Sony. So they had the right people in place to do this label. Everything was really, really great. And we played Livestock. And that's when we got finally signed. The guy flew down and signed us there at that event. And so, but they just, they just didn't have like the idea. Jim Johnson wanted to be the president. He didn't know that there was a label. So the company was so big, he didn't realize that they had actually started a record company. And so when he did find that out, he asked Vince to fire those two guys and let him be the president. And Vince did. And then everything fell apart. And then because it fell apart, it made all the guys in the band discouraged, and everybody was just like, "Oh fuck, I can't." Yeah. The idea of going out showcasing all over again, and we'd already been through 5 years Promises, and we worked with Brian from AC/DC on a record, and we had a song on the radio, 85 stations. So we'd run that route. So when that was over, I was pretty exhausted with playing in a band and everything, and I owned a head shop at the time in Sarasota, and so I was just kind of in a tattoo shop, and I was just kind of hanging out. But I saw this thing on about that Slash was putting together a new band, and blah blah blah, and so I auditioned for that, and I got a call from Slash, and next thing you know, I was almost in Velvet Revolver.
That's crazy.
That was really weird.
I remember when me and you talked about that at that time. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, that was nuts, man. And so I didn't, and that was right at the time where I was kind of, I didn't really own any Atheist albums at that time. In my eyes, nobody cared about Atheist. It was over old news. And so but I wanted to have copies for myself. So anyway, I went on the internet, and used copies were like really expensive, like over $100. And so that kind of triggered the idea of, hey, I know that the original label that we signed with back in the day fucked us over, never gave us statements or anything. So I'm just going to bootleg this music. And that's exactly what I did. Is I bootlegged our very own records, and made new covers, worked with Relapse Records, and licensed it to them, and just essentially dared them to come after me.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Because and it worked, and it was amazing. And all of a sudden, there was this resurgence of, we'd had no idea. And we went over to Germany and played Wacken, and we're just blown away at the amount of people that knew about Atheist because of the internet. And that's what started it all. And that was in 2005 when it finally came out. But so
who was a part of Atheist then?
It was me and Steve Flynn, and we tried to pull Rand in on it, but he was having a lot of legal issues, so he wasn't going to be able to travel to Europe at all. So at that point, Steve had not played drums for 14 years. He stopped playing, and then when he finally decided he wanted to play again, so he kind of put together a little band in Atlanta, full of like-minded guys, technical metal guys, and they were called Gnostic.
Gnostic.
Yeah. And so me and him were just talking, and I was like, can those guys play Atheist music? And he was like, well, some of them can probably. I don't know if the bass player can, but Tony can. So that the idea of doing some shows, and we put the feelers out. And like I said, the first thing we got was Wacken, which is just hit of all the most amazing festival you can get.
Yeah.
And so Hellfest and all that. And so for a couple of years we just did shows. We were like, oh, this is fun. Play whenever we want to play, and play these great shows. And then Season of Mist started asking us to make a new record, and we were just, I don't know, we didn't want to fuck with the formula. We just like
right, you're having fun.
Got these three. Yeah, and then so it took about 18 months for him to finally convince us to at least get in a room together. So me and Steve got in a room together, and the first song we wrote was Second Son from Jupiter. And we realized, wow, that chemistry is sitting right there. It's always been there.
Yes, it's sick.
And that was it, man. Off we did to Jupiter, and that was the first drums that kid played in 14 years, and he kills it on that album. So really phenomenal drummer, and my best friend in the world. He's a great guy, and a huge supporter of me and this new Atheist and the new lineup, and he's just been really great about it, because he's a corporate guy, got a big family, does very well for himself. He's as we get older, it's hard for it's very it's unique, the situation that Obituary has, where these guys that are all in the same age group, able to go out and go on tour like that. It's I went a different route. I love playing with 25 to 30-year-olds, because they're just so talented and so full of energy and excitement. So the band that I have now playing this music is just, man, they're killing it.
Fucking killer live, man.
Thanks, man. You saw the Brass Smoke show?
Yes.
Yeah. Fucking so yeah, just I'm having a blast playing it, and Steve is very supportive of that, and Till the Dirt. So it's nice, man.
You had a little bit different lineup though on this last tour, right?
Yes. So there was a situation that happened with that lineup. We were supposed to go to Europe and do a headlining tour, and a couple of the guys bowed out at the last minute, which was not cool.
Right.
And I'm trying to be kind as I explain it,
yes.
But it was catastrophic. And I was left with 2 days' notice on a headlining tour of Europe, and the bus had been paid for. The tour manager was already in Hungary, ready to go, and yeah, man, these guys bowed out of it, and so that was just didn't know really what to do. And the daunting idea of having to put together a brand new Atheist in a 6-month period was just like off the charts. But I got so lucky, and it ended up being a real blessing in disguise for the lineup that I have now, which is just, I can't say enough about them. Just as people, we got along so well, and we're all just genuinely friends and interested in each other's music. And so, yeah, I got 3 new guys in the band. R.A.V.A.G.E is still our bass player. He's amazing. But that was a tough time. I mean, being in a band is ugly, because I had to really kind of take that on the chin. I couldn't really talk about it publicly when the tour got canceled. So I was like, fuck Kelly. Fucking canceled the tour 2 days before. And I was like, yeah, nope, it did not. It was not me that did that. But it hurt a lot of people. It cost a lot of people a lot of money. And I'm, very sorry about it. It was just, there was nothing I could do about it, man. It sucked. Right. So, out there, make sure everybody that's in your band really wants to tour. Because it's like, touring is, sometimes people wish for something, and then when it's presented to them, they go, well, hold on a minute. I don't know, it's like, no. You gotta make sure everybody's committed, because people make plans. So that's what happened. So the new guys that we just did the Cynic tour with, Dylan Marks, Alex Haddad from Phoenix, plays in a great band called R.A.V.A.G.E. Also has his own band called Desiderium. Dylan has 2 bands as well, Fermenter and Beekeeper. Both really, really cool bands. One of his bands made the music for the World Cup soccer thing this year and won an award. And so just, and then Jerry Watunski is a kid that I met on YouTube when he was like 13 or 14 years old years ago. And he was playing atheist music when he was a real young kid. And I just kept my eye on him for the last 12 years. And so when the time came to get another guitar player, I reached out and said, hey, man, and it's like one of his favorite bands ever. So he was just like, holy fuck, I can't believe I'm an atheist. And he killed it. He just is a fucking rock star, man.
Hell yeah, that's
sweet
killer.
Human being. Yeah, and they're cool, man. Like, and I just, so we, they're all old enough. I'm old enough to be all their fathers, but it's fucking. I'm father time. I'm father piece of time. It was fucking. I love it, man. They lift me up to a different energy that I've never felt before. And they're just, our new drummer Dylan plays like really hard. So he's, and I've never heard these songs played with drums that powerful. Because it's one thing to be articulate and technical, but to combine it with power, like John Bonham power, like smacking a fucking snare, is it's fun on stage to feel that. You can feel the power of that. So I just feel blessed on all levels. And 3 of those guys play with me until the dirt as well. And the other guy is Ian Way, who plays in a band called Surreption. He's from Canada. And so it's him, Jerry Watunski, Dylan Marks, and R.A.V.A.G.E. Are in Till the Dirt with me as well. They played on the album, and so they're going to be a part of the live band. And so I'm just keeping it all in the family.
Is Atheist going to... Are you planning on releasing anything as Atheist in the future?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And and also, is Steve Flynn still part of that? Because I think he is.
Not, no, I mean, not at this point. I mean, he's bowed out to let me go and do what we do. If we go to write a new record, I'm sure that we'll get together on at least a couple songs.
Okay, I got you.
This is kind of a new moving forward scenario, and but it's all done with positivity,
and his blessing and all. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve, I love Steve to death, man. He's cool.
He's great guy. Fucking ridiculous drummer. Very underrated. Underappreciated when people talk about top 10 extreme metal drummers. You always see the Reinerts in there and all these other guys. You never see Flynn in there. But I encourage anybody to go back and listen to Unquestionable Presence and tell me that guy doesn't belong in the top 10 of any fucking drum list in extreme metal. He's just a monster.
And he's
really
a smart dude too.
Very, very, very.
Oh my God! He always made me feel dumb back a long time ago when I was around him. I'm like, jeez, dude,
he's super well spoken and
yes,
he's great. He's my homie.
So back to Till the Dirt. Hell yeah! So what's the plans? You got any tours lined up for Till the Dirt?
It is literally we're in step one, man. It's
the album just released and. hopefully the sales.
Yeah, we're going to see if anybody can. Hopefully everybody loves it, and the opportunities to tour will present themselves. We're certainly ready. The band's ready to go and do some shit in 2024, and so yeah, I think onward and upward, man. It's all just came out of thin air. So I really am excited to see how it unravels, and maybe next year we can get on the phone again and relish in all the cool shit that happened since we last talked. You know,
and man, and Kelly, I love you to death, and I'm so happy for you, man. I mean,
thank you, man. I appreciate that, man.
It's just like
more than you know.
Dude, I'm super happy for you. I really am.
Thanks, brother.
I love seeing any of my friends happy, but it's so cool to like see you like this, Obituary doing as well as they, Atheist, you know, and all the guys, you know, I saw everybody rise. And I love it, man. I love it. I love them.
Yeah, the alumni is shining, man. And
it's
you know, the Tampa
great.
Alumni is really shining globally, and it's fucking pretty cool, man. I mean, we're all in our 50s now, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, do you know what really makes me this things in perspective? Have you ever seen the meme on it's on TikTok or something where it shows like Archie Bunker, George Jefferson, all your famous TV guys, and they're all like 48, 49. So when I think of Archie Bunker, I think of an old guy. And I think, holy fuck, I'm older than Archie Bunker.
Exactly.
What the fuck? So, you know, but our generation of 50-year-olds is not the average. You know what I mean? Not in metal. You know what I mean? I there's nothing about me that's 55 years old, except my hair. You know, it's gray, and my beard.
My beard is white, and I'm starting to. I have been getting the ARP shit.
I'm about to sign up, man. I can't wait to get my discount. But I just think that's hilarious because I look at the other 55-year-old men, and you know, and my contemporaries, and they're just, you know, a lot of them are just dead on their feet. You know, they're just like going through life, been married 30 years, kids are grown, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. You know, they're just like going to the same job that they've had for 25 years, and I'm so good. I mean, you know, listen, good for them because you know what, those guys have big, beautiful houses and nice cars and things maybe that I don't have. But you know, the ability to travel and see the world like we've all been able to do. You know, just have been going around Europe, I mean, 10 times over, seeing all the different cultures and different kinds of metalheads, you know, all over the planet is an invaluable career thing. You know, I mean, money is great and security is great, but living is greater, you know, and to me, traveling is living, and,
yes,
you know, and making music is living. And so I feel super fucking glad that I didn't play football in high school. And I chose guitar instead of football. You know, I fucking love football. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm just glad I didn't choose that and chose music instead because it never leaves you. It will always give you what you give it. And can't think of a whole lot of other things that'll do that for you. You know, regardless of the amount of money you make. You know, it's very rewarding. So.
Hell
grateful.
yeah. I mean, I have that job. I have my house. I have my car. I've had my job, believe it or not. I just had an anniversary. 17 years. Holy shit. And
you are nothing like the 50-year-olds around you.
Right.
You are nothing like that. You got it. You got both, you fucker.
Yeah, exactly. And I do travel too. So when I can.
You got it all, baby. Yeah. Yep. I saw you at the Stonehenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got it. I'm going to Ireland next, but
beautiful daughter too. You know, your daddy.
Yeah. And a grandfather now. Damn,
nice, me too, man.
Damn, I am old. Son of a bitch.
Me too, buddy. I got 2 grandkids.
But you know what? I don't feel old. I feel like,
that's
wow.
what I'm saying.
I think about it and I go, damn, I'm 55.
We are not Archie Bunker.
No.
You know?
No.
That should be the title of this episode. We are not Archie Bunker.
Just going to work, coming home, and doing the home
other people
thing.
listening out there who don't know who Archie Bunker is. Probably they're like, what the fuck is Archie Bunker?
Yeah.
Google that shit.
Yeah. It was a great freaking TV show.
Oh my God, it was good. You couldn't have that TV show today.
No, not at all.
Canceled immediately.
Cancel cultures demolished the fucking.
Yeah, we came up in a good era, man. The last of the good era before shit got too puffy and sissified.
Well, hopefully we'll be doing this Metal Fest in 2025, and Atheist will be a part of it in downtown Tampa. You know, Bronco from the Tampa Museum of Art, and I'm working.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all working with him, and I still got to talk to him about some stuff. On
and
the
also
side about that.
For sure, we need to hone in on that probably in the early part of next year and start pulling some cool things together. So anybody out there listening that has great Tampa metal memorabilia, like Get With Dave, and again, this event is really going to be cool. We'll be able to talk about it more next year, but I'm excited and hopefully can be a part of it. I also wanted to say next year we're playing the Maryland Death Fest pre-show with Sodom.
Oh, and it's shit!
Really excited about that, man, because it's Sodom's first time playing in a long time, and the show's sold out already. It's sold out in like 2 days, so that's going to be super cool, man.
Damn,
so
I might have to. I might have to.
You can pull some strings
along.
You can pull some strings. You're Death Metal Dave, man.
Well, yes. I hope I can. I might know one of the bands playing.
Yeah, I think you might.
But brother, oh man, Kelly, I
love you, man.
I love you too, man. I appreciate you staying on here with me as long as you had. I know you're really busy, and I appreciate you taking the time. But I thought this would, since your album's coming out, I thought it would be the best time to talk to you. You know,
absolutely. I appreciate it, man. And I hope everybody will go out on Friday and buy the damn record. If you want to stream it on Spotify, that's cool too. But buy the fucking thing.
Buy it.
Really. It helps the fucking bands, man. There's a really nice clear vinyl. The artwork's really beautiful. The liner notes and the lyrics and everything are in there. So bring back the old school, man, where you can hold an album in your hands and hold a CD in your hands and pop that fucking thing in and crank it up to 11. And I think you'll find a lot of interesting metal on this record. And I appreciate everybody opening their mind. I had to ask everybody 30 years ago to open their mind to listen to Atheist, and I have to ask once again, go open your mind and listen to Till the Dirt, because it's definitely a new frontier.
Fuck yeah, man. I still buy CDs and vinyl and shit myself. Still to this day. Haven't stopped.
Cool.
Won't stop.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure I'll be seeing you at a show coming up soon.
Definitely.
Death Metal Dave's always at all the shows. I'm envious. I see you at shows all the time. I see it on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I wish I lived closer to Tampa. I'm about an hour and 15 away, so.
I've been taking a little break this last month working on my house. I'm trying talk about it later. We're talking about Kelly, and I got to let you go because you got another interview to do right after this.
I do. Yeah.
Give my apologies.
Of chatter.
Give my apologies to the interviewer, if you will.
It's all good, man. It's it happens. It's great to have a good conversation with somebody I care about, man. So thank you.
Hell yeah. Appreciate and don't forget, it's on Nuclear Blast, and you can go to Nuclear Blast Records and buy it.
Yeah, and I believe Daddy Cool is going to stock some locally.
Sick.
So go into Daddy Cool Records and Tapes and tell him I want the Till the Dirt record, and he'll order it. And yeah, it should be really easy to find. It's Sony. Sony is the distributor, so gotcha. Sony is king. So the record should be everywhere everywhere it needs to be. So, and thank you guys for the years of support. Thank you, buddy, for all the the love that you've shown over the years, and I look forward to seeing everybody